Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode on Faith Like Wildflowers podcast. For today's episode, we have the last episode of the mission series where I talk about the trip that I got back from literally a week and a day ago. Going back to Mayreau, YWAM, SVG in the St. Vincent and the Grenadines, in the island of Mayreau, with the young adult group from my church this time in August of 2025. I already did one from January 2025. But they are still very different considering how much progress the base made after getting a lot more help still after my first group in January to help a lot with the community and the base there, and so things were a lot different. They had electricity in more of the buildings and running water in more of the buildings and better food and things like that. So it was definitely a different experience, and also just with a different group of people as well. So we had smooth travels and everything. We had originally planned, though, to go down and take the fast ferry. So we were flying out on the Saturday. I'm going to stay in a church in St. Vincent on Saturday night. And then we were going to take the fast ferry out on Sunday to go out to Mayreau. However, a week before we went, that ferry caught on fire, and so it was not drivable, it was not usable. So we had to stay in St. Vincent an extra day in order to take a slower ferry down that was leaving on Monday to go down to Mayreau. And it was actually really cool how we were able to turn that around and look on the positive side, and we got more time to spend time with locals and the youth at the church that we were staying at in St. Vincent, versus if we would have just went to Mayreau almost right away, we wouldn't have had as much opportunity to connect with the people in St. Vincent and at the church that we were staying at. So that was super cool how God used that for good. And so that Saturday night, we hung out with the youth. We did an improvised skit on the scene where Peter walks on water from the Bible. We literally did not practice it at all. We just straight up did it. It was super funny to them. But it went fairly well, and I would say we did very good. And then our leader, who was kind of like the adult leader of our young adults group, he gave a little message of encouragement to the youth then, and we played a couple games with them that evening. And then the next morning, our leader gave a mini sermon to the church, and me and another guy from our group were able to share our testimonies and just kind of encourage them and give them some takeaways from our testimonies. And then they were able to bless us by praying for us and singing a song of blessing and encouragement over us, I guess. Which was super cool. And then, that afternoon we went to the beach in St. Vincent and just hung out as a group and with some of the other locals that were from that church still, some of the youth. And then Monday we left fairly early-ish and went down to the terminal and got some food and things, and then went on the ferry and took the ferry. It was a pretty long ferry ride. I think it was 5.5, 6 hours, maybe, because we also had to make some stops at other islands as well. And then we eventually got to Mayreau and had orientation, settled in and had supper and everything, and then just kind of went to bed and rested. And then the rest of our week consisted of, in the mornings, we would have breakfast at 7:30 and devotionals as a group. Someone would lead devotions from our group. I led Thursday. 2 other people led different days. And then some of the YWAM base people led the other days that we did not lead. And then, we would get to work usually around 8:30ish, and we would also help with sign up, and then 2 people for breakfast and 2 people for supper throughout the week. Whoever signed up would help make that and prep that and everything. And then we would have people for cleanup as well. Lunches were made by some very kind ladies that were locals that came to give up their time to make lunches for us because we were working throughout the day. So anyways, that was a sidetrack because I forgot to mention that. Sorry, there was a slight interruption. So yeah, we would start working around 8:30, and throughout the week, we would get lunch at 12 and then go back to work at 1 and then work till 4. And then the evenings, we were either showering and then prepping supper, or we would go to the beach or just hang out around the base. And one evening after supper, and supper was at 6, so we could like go to the beach and stuff in between 4 and 6. And then after supper we would have debrief, and then the one evening some local guys came over and played basketball with some of the guys from our group and a couple girls. And then another evening we hung out with the youth in Mayreau, and we put on our skit for those in Mayreau. And then since our leader was going and seeing other people on the island and he wasn't on the base at the time, one of our guys from the young adult class gave an on the spot mini encouragement sermon that he came up with literally just as he was speaking, and he did really good with that. And then most of the other evenings we would just play games with each other, things like that. That evening that we did that skit as well for them, we played dodgeball and knockout with them, and then we played some Uno Flip and just fellowshipped with them and encouraged them, and that was super fun. Some of the work that we were able to get done around the base included we were able to completely clean out and reorganize the main cell building, which has been completely cluttered and had stuff in it ever since the hurricane a year ago. So we were able to completely clear that out so that they could play basketball full court, and that was some of what I was doing, while also kind of helping the one director with watching her kids and kind of helping the kids get involved as well, so that she could be more present and oh, we don't need this anymore, oh, can you put that over there, as we were cleaning and organizing it out with the few girls that I was with. We were able to organize their tool thing, shed. We were able to put up a wall in the launch house. One guy was able to do some tiling, another guy was able to do some electrical things, another guy was able to do some mechanical things and fix some things up that way. We were able to fix up the playground for the island of Mayreau, since that had been destroyed and laid over in the hurricane, so we were able to fix that up for them. The kids literally 5 minutes after it was finished went and started playing on it. It was super sweet. We were able to paint the primer and paint the first coat of the directors and the other two on the base their house. I think that's pretty much all that we did. And then the one day, Thursday, that morning and some of the afternoon, we went out into the town, and some people dug a trench for some locals. Some people were just talking to locals and hanging out with them. Others did a bunch of spontaneous tasks. That's what my group did. We helped some couple move a boat out into the water so they could go out fishing, and then we just kind of talked to some people, and then we went to a house and helped them clean up some trash and move some wood piles around and take nails out of these boards of wood. A bunch of groups did a bunch of random different things that day. Then when we were traveling back to St. Vincent, I actually slept most of that boat ride. That boat was a little faster than the first one, but it felt so much shorter. Actually, no, it was not faster. It was slower, so it should have been longer, but it felt faster, the ride, because I slept most of the time, which was super nice. And then that evening when we were in St. Vincent, we had supper at one of the locals' houses. She invited us all over and made a supper, which is super sweet, and we got some more local food then. And then that morning, we were at church that Sunday with them again before going to the airport later that afternoon, starting our travels home. And we did not do any thing within the sermon at all that morning. We just sat in the service and did not help lead with anything. And then we had safe travels home. Everything was smoothly. The only thing I was nervous about was everyone's luggage came within like the first 2 rounds of luggage that was pouring out from the carts. And then mine was like 3 or 4 rounds later, so I straight up thought that my suitcase like just did not get on this plane, or was just got lost, or was not coming, or someone took it or something. Mostly because my trip for Romania was a week and a half before that, and I did not get my luggage coming back, but that's because we had a connecting flight, so it's like this one had to have made it on. But then it finally came. But that was the only thing that was a little like, was this smooth? It kind of made me a little nervous. But yeah, that all went smoothly then. I want to look through my notes and make sure that I'm not missing anything. But yeah, I think I pretty much explained that trip well, told everything. Yeah. So, before I end this episode in this series, I just want to start by saying, if you want to see pictures from the trip, if you're a visual person or you just want to see them, for any of the trips that I have on this series, I made a post called A Glimpse into My Missions from Missions Trips series on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can go check that out. And then if you're watching on Spotify or even on YouTube as well, just so you guys know, I do have an Instagram page at Faith Like Wildflowers, and it has the same logo as here on YouTube and here on Spotify. So you can go follow. There's a post as well showing the same pictures. It's the same post that I mentioned for YouTube on the Instagram, and I also post some reels from clips of the podcast and just some other random fun posts every once in a while on that Instagram page, so make sure you go follow that as well. And just again, like always, feel free to share this with your friends that you think they would enjoy listening to any of these podcasts episodes, and just share it and push it out so that I can share the gospel with more people and just reach more people with this ministry that God has placed on my heart. And I just thank you guys so much for your support, and I enjoy doing this, and I'm glad that God has called me to it and placed it on my heart, because I really enjoy getting to just share everything that I'm experiencing in my relationship with Him and everything that I'm learning as I study the Bible more. And so I hope you guys have a blessed rest of your day, and I hope you enjoyed this series as you requested it.